like to get your information and know that you are here at this seminar. So if you want to navigate to usu.instructure.com/courses/ there's the course number right there at the top, that URL. There will be a button up at the top that says join this course, and it'll register you for the course. And then over on the left-hand side, it says ETE Seminars Registration. If you click on that, and then it'll have you choose this seminar from a drop-down box, and it's the top one. And then just put in your information. It'd be great to have a list of who was here. And then we can also send out announcements to you through this course. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay? Great.
Okay, and welcome. We're happy to welcome you today to the first installment of our ETE seminar series this spring, and are grateful for all of those of you who have attended. Also to Heidi Kessler, who's kicking off our first event today. So as you all know, this is for those who are interested in learning more about what is required to teach USU 1010 University Connections. So we have about 80 sections every fall, with a high percentage of our entering students enrolling in it. And so teaching this is a great opportunity to connect with new students and to help them have a solid foundation and a positive experience. I know, having worked here in City, that's my role. I'm over in the Center for Innovative Design and Instruction. We've seen so many good benefits come from the University Connections program and the opportunities that it's provided for students to really become acquainted with USU as they're coming in. So today we're happy to invite Heidi Kessler and have her here. She is the Director of the Student Retention and Completion office here on campus. And then she'll also be introducing a number of other people who are presenting. So just a quick note on some of our ETE stuff. If Aaron mentioned this, recordings, as this event will be recorded, and the recordings will be placed in this Canvas course. Now, if you go to our website, empowerteaching.usu.edu, you'll find there we also have links to recorded seminars. But under resources, you can find a link to that ETE Canvas course that Aaron directed you to. So click on that. If you are not enrolled in the course, you can actually enroll yourself to view announcements and things. There will be a self-enrollment button up here at the right, and then you can register for future seminars. You can also check your, if you're participating in the ETE 10 program, you can look at your badges that have been earned. You can accept badges. All of that is tied into this course, so it's an effective way to work. So also, for those of you who came expecting refreshments, they will be here. It will be around 3 o'clock, at 3:15 that they'll show up. So it'll be afterwards, and we'd invite you also to stick around to our next session, which will be connecting with your students, student retention through mentoring and caring. All right, without further ado, Heidi Kessler.
I don't have much voice today, so I apologize. But I also won't do most of the speaking, so that's good. Welcome. I'm glad to see so many people here. How many of you have taught USU 1010 before? All right, so then the others haven't, which is good to know. We love having faculty teach this course. We have some amazing staff who also teach this course and advisors, but the opportunity to have faculty teach these freshmen and to help them see what it's like to have a professor who cares. So many of these kids report to us that they've been told by parents or by high school teachers or counselors, when you get to college, they're not going to care about you. And we really try hard to dispel that myth, and having faculty be the ones that help dispel that myth can be really powerful. And so I appreciate that you came today. I have asked I'm on the wrong side, Matt and Jen to come and talk a little bit about what USU 1010 is. We've got some big ideas that we teach and some questions. So they're going to spend about 10 minutes talking about those and then we can have 5 minutes of questions after that. So the big idea behind Connections, and why do we teach Connections? And Connections is a course about bringing in these new freshmen and getting them, orientated to the college atmosphere and college environment. But one thing I really like about Connections is, oh, they're there, is that we have these 3 big ideas, and these big ideas really help to structure everything that we talk about in Connections. And so as you go through the course, as you go through the different assignments, you're always able to look back to these 3 big ideas, and you're able to tie them back to these really, what we feel like are really important questions to being a student at the university. And if you look at these questions, they've got things like, why am I here? A lot of times I know in Connections, and my freshman students that I work with come in with this idea of, well, I'm here because mom and dad told me I have to be here. And so helping them to kind of figure out for themselves why they need to be there and how they're going to be successful in college is a really important question to help them answer for themselves. How to be more engaged, how to be a fully engaged member of a learning community is something for them to, it will help them retain them, help keep them at the university, and is another really important question to answer for these students. And so these are questions we feel like are really, really important. And as you kind of think about whether you want to take part and teach Connections, you may want to think through these questions and think, are these something that you can also say are important? And if you can, then you should definitely apply for Connections and to teach Connections. Matt, I want to add to that.
So I'll stand here in the middle so I won't stand in front of the screen. USU, we've gone to a number of these first year experience conferences, and we've talked about what we're doing here with these big questions. And one of the things that orientation programs and first year experience programs struggle with is just kind of being the tour guides. And so you just run everybody around all over campus. And of course, they don't remember any of that because it's too much information. And what we've done here is to bring these questions in so that this can be an academically focused class that's really helping them see the big questions. Because one of the things that I always say that drives this is, without a compelling why, the what and the how doesn't really matter. So if we run them around to every center and resource, if they're still stuck on, I don't know what this place is or why I'm here, then we struggle. We struggle a lot with the students in class, and they often don't know why they're here. They get really frustrated with the university for doing exactly what it's designed to do in the first place, right? And as faculty, we know this, right? They're mad that we're making them do research, or they're mad that we're making them read extensively because they feel like it should be something else. So I just want to give you a quick story that happened to me as we've been working on this for a number of years. Even before I wrote the Becoming a Learner book, I did that in my class. The first week of class, we would talk about this. And while I was writing the book before it was published, I would have this essay and a lecture. And we spent the first week in this course just talking about it, as we always did. And we had this fun discussion. The students were really engaged, and I went on with the course. And then at the end of the course, this student comes up to me and just said, Matt, I want to thank you. And he shakes my hand and he said, this was going to be my last semester of college. I was done. I saw no point in being here, and I was ready to just finish up this semester and go home. I'm a licensed personal trainer, and I was just going to work. I was going to be done. But after we had those conversations, I'm going to stay. I'm going to finish this, right? And it was really interesting because, I mean, I can say, you're welcome, for that discussion, but I didn't do anything to this student except just tweak his framework. Like, this is why you're here and what a university is and why it's asking you to do these things. And that kid took off after that. great stuff, graduated, but he wasn't the student that you would typically think is ready to drop out. Like, he was there in class every day, he sat on the front row, and he engaged. He was just disillusioned. And it really opened my eyes to this fact that students are coming here. They think it's a job training program, or they're here because mom and dad are like, this is what you do next, right? Whatever it might be, but they're just a little bit lost. And so these questions help them get oriented to what this place is and why it matters and why we're doing the things that we're doing. And what we really want is to put the best in front. And so I know several of you have taught this class before, and we're trying to persuade the rest of you to sign up for this. So if you've taught this before, can I just give out a little bit of a plea to do a little bit of a retail politics and go knock on somebody else's door who you think would be a really good teacher in this class? We're finding that a lot of faculty don't really realize that they can do this, or they just feel like, well, I'm not really qualified for that. And we're finding a number of faculty, if we just kind of knock on their door and say, hey, would you do this? And Heidi will come to their office, I'll come by their office, Jen will go by Lisa, we'll go and we'll talk to them. But we really want to put the best in the front. And the best in the front means those who understand this mission and are willing to share it. Because we're hoping that this will be one of those root issues, the big questions of why you're here. And then when we ask them to do all the other stuff as they go along, they'll have something to hang on to, so they're not in the middle of their junior year sitting in my class thinking, I'm going to drop out because I don't see any point. So maybe that's the emotional appeal on the side of that, right? The student story. But that's what these questions do for us. And that's what I think the benefit and the value is of the class. And when we talk to other universities about this approach, they're excited and they recognize, like, yeah, we're just dragging them around from office to office to office. So this is an exciting thing for me to be a part of.
The structure of the classes and that came up with, and how these questions were formulated.
Yeah, so this was formulated with the what's the committee called exactly? The Connections Faculty Advisory Committee. So what happened a few years ago is we moved this, we created a faculty committee that oversaw this course that became a subcommittee of the General Education Committee, right? Because this is university and we have sub of everything. But what it did, it gave the faculty control of the curriculum. It was able to bridge that gap between the provost office and student services. But the faculty are in charge of the class. They're in charge of the curriculum. We have a committee that chooses the book. We run this, so it really is a faculty-driven course and not just sort of a, let's go and canoe in the lake, even though you can go and canoe in the lake, and that's a lot of fun, right? But you get to do both.
And maybe you could just tell me about it.
So I'm on the committee, and Jen Grewe's on the committee, and Harrison. Oh, sorry. You tell me what to say, and I will say it.
Maybe department, what department?
Oh, Jen, you go ahead and introduce.
I'm in psychology.
And I'm in communication studies, and Dennis and Denise.
I was saying, did you call me Dennis? Anyway, no. I'm in Extension, College of Agriculture and Extension. I'm Denise Stewardson.
Dennis, I'm Director of Academic Success.
Okay, we have Maureen Hearns, who's in music, and we have Harrison Kleiner in philosophy, and we have Lee Rickords, who's the chair of the Gen Ed committee, who sits on our committee as well. So, and then Heidi and Lisa are our managers, our handlers. Any questions about the big questions or comments, those of you who have taught before? You're all dumbfounded. That story, you're wiping your tears away from the student who was about to leave. Cool.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the time commitment for teaching connections and what you can expect as far as that goes. Obviously, it's a little bit different for every instructor because we all are a little bit different in how we go about preparing and grading and communicating with students. But on the whole, there are 2 mandatory trainings. One happens in April and one happens in August. And those are super mandatory because that's how we give all the information to you that we need you to have. as instructors. And those exact dates will be on the application. If you decide to apply, you can book them well in advance. And then the Connections course itself is it's the 3 days before fall semester begins. So August 23rd, 24th, and 25th. That's a Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday right before the semester begins. Now that's a busy time. I know that all of you are thinking, gosh, that week is always crazy. Connections does add to the craziness, but in a good way, we like to think. And you'll forget how busy you were that week by the time it comes time to apply for the next year. So it works out great. So August 23rd through the 25th, the class runs from 9 to 4, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. There's an hour lunch break in there so you can, quickly check in with email or that kind of thing if you need to. You do provide lunch. You do bring in lunch for your students one of the days. So from 9 to 4, you're pretty well booked that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And then this year, we started a tradition last year where the students use we call it the luminary, the incoming student connections luminary. And Heidi's going to pull up. Do we have the little video? We'll show you a little video of that, but basically that they'll meet in the spectrum, and we have a quick speech from Harrison Kleiner from philosophy, and then the bagpipes lead us and the president all out to the quad, and the students then hear a speech from the president on the quad, and we turn the light on the top of Old Main blue, and then the students all gather into the shape of an A for a picture. And so we made a little bit of a video last year that shows the luminary. So that is your only evening commitment as far as connections goes. Will be at the Friday night luminary. Student-friendly video. So this was kind of the preview video. So you'll see they all have little lights that are in the shape of Old Main, and then they get into an A after the speech, and it's a really fun thing. So that will happen again on Friday night. So your time commitment will be 9 to 4, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Friday night for an hour for the luminary. And in addition to that, there are 3 75-minute follow-up sessions once a week on the 2nd, 4th, and 6th weeks of the semester. So there are 3 follow-up sessions. This is where you can check in with the students, see how things are going with their semester. And then, of course, you need to be committed to grading your assignments and submitting your grades on a timely manner, checking your email, scanning your receipts into Box. We use Box for all of our accounting purposes. You have a budget and some procedures on how you go about spending that, so you track everything and put your receipts in Box. And then you do also have to use Canvas, because that's the base for our class. Canvas is what we use for that, and we have an add-on software called Salt that we use to do the scheduling. So there are a couple of softwares that we use, and then just the administrative parts of that. And then just being able to read your emails and reply in a timely manner. We expect the connections instructor to model good behavior for their students. So you would never let a student just say, I didn't have time to read your email. I didn't know there's a grading deadline. I'm busy. I'll get to it when I get to it. Same thing with connections instructors. We have the emails and the deadlines, and it's a pretty structured program. So if you read along with your emails and follow along with the deadlines, then the time commitment shouldn't be overwhelming for you as an instructor. So any questions on the time commitment? Yeah.
What days of the week or time are the 3 follow-ups?
Yes. So the 3 follow-up sessions are actually scheduled according to what works for you. And so when you apply to teach the course, you'll select what days of the week or times will work for you. So sometimes they're later in the afternoon. Sometimes we have them at 7:30 in the morning. Usually we avoid between 8:30 and 2:30 just because classroom space at the university is so hard to find in those hours. Yes, and then you also will be assigned a current student as a peer mentor for your course. So they will also be assisting you with the class, and they're a great resource to help with, they can help grab the Aggie ice cream, or they can teach, an hour on working with roommates or whatever. So they can really be a benefit to the course as well, but you're assigned a peer mentor for the course as well. Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay.
So Lisa is the director of student orientation and transition services, and she really takes care of all of the logistics that have to happen for connections to work, and that's really powerful. So next up, what we have is Claudia Riddell. Is it Riddell or Radel? Radel. Okay, Claudia has taught before. She is an associate dean in the College of Natural Resources. And so she's a busy woman, obviously, and she's teaching. And yet, when she took that position, she said, "But I'm not going to quit teaching connections." And so that year, maybe this year. Anyway, she's going to talk to us a little bit about why it's worth the time, because it is a time commitment. And she'll talk to us about why it's worth the time after she's done. Dave Anderson was a first-time professor of connections this last fall, and he's going to share some of his insights as a first-time instructor. So we'll do those two. That'd be awesome. I think so, because of a broadcast.
I just have never used one of these mics, so I'm not going to say a lot. I'm going to make it really fast because Heidi just asked me to do this. So I've only taught connections twice, but as my dean says, I guess I've drunk the Kool-Aid, because I get a lot out of it, and each time I think at the end of the intense experience that has taken a very concentrated amount of time that it was too much and I can't do it again. By the time I get to the next year, I'm like, oh, I am totally going to do it again, because I have really gotten a lot out of doing it. And there are three kind of, I would say, main things that I as a faculty member get out of teaching connections. One is that I get to connect with these first-year students when they have just gotten here. You know, and in my classes, I sometimes have some first-year students in my big class, but I don't connect with those 100 bodies when I'm lecturing. I'm not successful in connecting with them. And then I have a class where I teach mainly juniors and seniors, and I connect with them, but they're in a very different place than these kids, for the most part, who are walking in the door in August. And there's so much energy and so much excitement that those students bring to us at USU, that I get a lot out of that connection, out of that kind of passion that they're bringing with them, their excitement, and it really can reignite for me kind of why I'm here, why I teach, what's important to me about it. So I feed off of that, so to speak, right? I also got into it because I wanted to learn more about the resources available on our campus for student success, because I was advising students. But I didn't really know very well how to help students who were struggling in different ways, or where to send them for different kinds of opportunities. And so the first time I did it, it was simply for that reason more than anything. I wanted to be a better advisor. I wanted to be able to be a better resource to students in my college and in my department. And so, you know, maybe by this third time I'll be learning less, but things are always changing, and I think there's always more to learn in that regard. And then the third reason why I find it really worthwhile is because it really helps me to move from being kind of embedded and focused in my department, in my college, on the students in my classes, in my major, and to connect with the larger mission of USU. In terms of education, you know, these bigger questions, and really helping me connect with the institution. Also, I think makes me more excited about being here, more connected, more passionate about being at USU and what USU is trying to achieve, in a way that I lose sight of sometimes when I'm really in the weeds there in the department. So that's, I think, has also been very satisfying for me. So I find the experience very intense at the time. One of the things I was concerned about, which some of you may be concerned about, which hasn't come up yet, is how much upfront preparation I would need to do. But it really is not that bad. so much of the lesson plans are provided to you with different options of what you can do. And then there's a certain amount of kind of open space that you can do some different things with. But so for me, the upfront work was reading that Common Lit book, making sure I got through it by the time we got to the end of the summer. And then that intensity of the experience during that week when I was really prepping the night before, most intensely for the next day. And then that intense experience, I just, as a whole then, when I step away from that intensity and the kind of, the immediate buzz that one gets from that, I just overall find it very personally and professionally satisfying. In a way that is different from what I get from teaching my other classes. There's some things that are similar, but it's not exactly the same, and it's satisfying in a new and different way, which helps also, I think, keep being a teacher here feel kind of fresh and exciting for me. So that's why I do it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Anderson from the Department of Landscape Architecture and Environmental Planning. And Heidi and Dennis asked me to come and maybe share a little bit about my experiences that I had teaching connections for the first time. And I really didn't know what to expect. I realized the notice went out, and I knew one of my colleagues had taught it before, but I really knew very little about the program. My interest in it and attraction was that I teach a whole bunch of freshmen. And we're up to now 4 sections of a face-to-face introductory course. And we also teach it online that my colleague Ben does. And so we're touching, interacting with a whole bunch of freshmen around campus now, probably upward of 1,000 kids a year. So I thought it would be a good experience to kind of get in the head of a college freshman a little bit more. And that was really about the only thing I thought about it. I've been attracted to working with that type of student, that age and position of student. And so I did it. And it turned out to be, Claudia? I echo what Claudia said. It was a really remarkable experience for me. I think I had the best group of kids. Maybe that's why. But a lot of you who've done that would say the same thing. I had, interestingly, I had 24 men and 6 women in my class. So very disproportionate. Some were true, incoming freshmen straight from high school. Others had been away. We had a couple of military people and some other kids that were starting a little later, some that had been on missions. And it was very interesting to see the anxiety and the tension and the stress. And I had one kid basically melt down after the first day. And I was really concerned for him because it was obviously was hitting him square between the eyes that he had engaged in something that was going to be very, very involved, and it was worrying him seriously. I had a great experience, though. I found the students to be just delightful. They were willing to learn. They were willing to participate. I purposely tried to engage them in a little bit different way, perhaps, than sitting in we were assigned a really bad classroom. Whoever's in the old biology building, sorry for you. Just rows and rows and rows of old chairs. And I moved my class for most of the group things to a space that we have over in landscape architecture. But it's interesting because we're over on the edge of campus. We exposed them to something none of them had ever heard about. So there's that attribute as well. I have 3 of those kids now in my class this semester. I've had contact with probably 4 or 5 of them. 2 of them are applying to the Huntsman School and have asked for recommendations. And so there's that common or that that feeling that I'm approachable, and they can come to me for assistance. And so, you know, I forget who said it right out of the gate, kind of alleviating that notion that, you know, we don't care about these kids, because we do. I was exceptionally proud of Utah State University. This is a well-oiled machine, this program. And it's extremely obvious that a lot of energy, effort, resources, and expertise has been applied to it. But I was really proud of Utah State for the introduction that they were giving to these students. The luminary thing was actually, I kind of thought, really? We're going to do little luminary things, you know? And it was really fun, and it was really engaging. Very, the students were interested in it. It was a fun nighttime thing. The speaker was great too. But I got, lastly, I got a little note that kind of summarizes, if I can focus on this. Heidi, I might need you to come read it. I got a note from a student, and he said, I wanted to thank you sincerely for involving me and all of our connection students in our introduction to Utah State, and for the great place that it is. In the short 3 days that we were in class, I have made friends, become more familiar with the campus, and fallen in love with this great learning community. Your wisdom, just because I'm old, and knowledge that you shared, let's see, I really can't read it. Oh, so personally, has been a great help to us and reduced our anxiety so much as we get started here. And it goes on, but it was a really sweet little note that I think these kids are scared. They're worried about their future. There's a lot of pressure, and this is a great tool to help kind of dispel some of that and get them started on the right.
I just really appreciate the two of you sharing your experience. And everybody has a unique experience. But we see faculty who do this year after year after year because they love it so much, and because it does really help them see students in a way that maybe they can't in larger classes or in more advanced classes, as Claudia talked about. So thank you so much. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the application process is. So we actually end up offering 84 sections during the academic year. Most of those are this model of the 3-day intense, and then we offer a few 2 or 3 sections in the fall that are 7-week, and 2 or 3 in the spring that are 7-week for those who can't come before school starts. And so on February 1st, if you go to this website, usu.edu/connections, you will see an application, and it's through ServiceNow, which means that you'll pull it up, you'll fill it out. It will know more about you than you know about yourself. It'll populate the information from HR that we would need if we end up hiring, and so it'll populate that. You will be asked a couple of questions, short essay or long answer questions, mostly having to do with these big ideas. And so why do you want to teach connections, and what does it mean to you to be an educated person? Those types of questions. So you'll write in your answers, then you'll submit it. It will go to your department head or whoever is your supervisor in HR, and then they have to approve it. And then they have to submit it, and it needs to come to me by February 28th. We found last year was the first year we did ServiceNow, and that's where the hiccup tended to be, was somebody would submit it, and maybe a department head didn't know what to do with that. So tell your department heads up front that you're planning to apply for this, that they will be getting a notification through ServiceNow, that they will need to go in and approve it if they approve you to teach it. And then make sure it gets to me. The way ServiceNow works is anything that's in the queue but not completed on the date that they turn it off just gets lost. And so if you haven't applied and had it go through that process, then your application won't ever make it. Once we receive all those applications, we take those, we look at everybody who taught in the past, and then we start scheduling, and everybody who's taught before has to apply as well. And then we start scheduling interviews, and these are about 10-minute interviews. I sit in on all the interviews for continuity's sake, and then I have 2 or 3 of the faculty committee members sit in on those as well. And again, we want to assess whether or not this is something you really believe in. We want to make sure that those that are chosen to teach this to our freshmen really believe this and live this. We have found that our students who grasp this idea are the ones who are most successful. They are retained. They go on and just like Matt's heartwarming story, once they get that, they want to stay and they want to become educated and for all the right reasons. But we find that the faculty who believe this and model this are the ones who then teach it the best. And so that's the purpose of the interview, the 10-minute interview, is just to make sure that everybody's comfortable with this and to kind of assess that. Then we have the difficult job of deciding who we will hire. And then we will send out, we haven't introduced Peggy yet. Peggy, do a wave. So Peggy is our administrative assistant, and she will send out a notice to those who have been hired. And then we have training meetings. Part of the application, you will select which training meeting you will go to in the spring in April. And that is mandatory. So if you tell us that you are coming to that, you have to come to it or you lose your spot to teach. And then on August 15th at noon, I think it goes till about 3, we will have mandatory training as well. So August 15th, absolutely. Look at your schedule. If you can't come to that meeting, then you just can't teach this year because it's that important. And so that's kind of all the mandatory stuff that you have to do. We have brown bags during May, during August, that will be, it's if you want to come, you come and you bring your lunch if you want. And we just discuss, and we have different discussions with those who have taught in the past. And it's an opportunity to share your wisdom and get ideas. For new, if you haven't taught this before, we will assign you a mentor, a faculty who has taught it before. And so that's just some faculty mentors got with their new instructor a lot. Others, it was just, whenever somebody needed a question answered, they had somebody. And so that relationship is just kind of organic, however the 2 of you want to work that out. And then these brown bags are a great opportunity. You look like you want to say something.
Tell them about the book.
Oh, yeah. Dennis, will you do that? Will you come talk about the book briefly? And then after Dennis talks about, so yesterday the Common Lit Committee, which of course is a subcommittee of the faculty committee, which is a subcommittee of the curriculum subcommittee. Anyway, they selected this book, and Dennis is great to talk about it.
Stay here because it's just going to be a second. So this is When Breath Becomes Air. We reviewed about 30 books overall and read about 5 of them towards the end, and this reads like poetry. It's a wonderful story. It's Paul Kalanithi. He's a young man who was raised in Kingman, Arizona. His father was a medical doctor there. He went and got a bachelor's degree from Stanford and a master's degree from Stanford in English literature, and then decided after that experience he wanted to be a brain surgeon. And so he ended up going and becoming a medical doctor. And first half of the book talks about that journey that he made about changing his life and the work that he had to do to get to that point. And then the second half of the book starts with him being diagnosed with terminal cancer. And it was just his life, well, to the end of his life. The dust jacket, I won't spoil it. The dust jacket uses the word was a lot. We asked Lisa to get the speaker, but it's going to be very difficult. But just that notion of starting to look at people as people instead of illnesses and this sort of thing. It really is going to be a wonderful book that addresses these things. For the last couple of years, we've started these literature committees with those questions in mind, and the books are selected specifically to teach towards the big ideas of connections. And this is going to be a great read. So that's my cheerleading speech.
I'm excited about this book and about the possibilities. We've got a couple of possibilities for a speaker, and both look really promising. So, any questions from you and you can ask fellow faculty who have taught, you can ask me, Lisa, any questions that you have about this process. Yeah.
Go over how to sign up. It doesn't work. That doesn't work very well on my iPhone when I logged into it. I enrolled in the class, but there's some other button we were supposed to push, and I can't figure it out.
Oh, that's Neil. We can show you. Oh. So signing up for this ETE course.
This one, so you know I'm here.
Yeah. And I don't maybe do that, but okay, I think you got it figured out. Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
Can I say a quick comment?
Yeah.
You mentioned the peer mentors. I just want to mention how outstanding they are. I've taught class now. So impressed with these students. I think they represent probably the best in the and they certainly are willing to do whatever is needed in class. You can know that you're going to have someone that do a lot of legwork and happily do it as well. Is that the right experience?
Absolutely true. So they are well trained by Lisa's office. Jake was here. Looks like he left. Okay. They do a great job of training those peer mentors, and they really know the ins and outs of the university and policy, and are very helpful. Good. Yeah, Melissa.
I actually last year requested my peer mentor from the university to fill out the survey. You might stay and be a graduate. She wanted to be a peer mentor as a master's student. Yes. We do let grad students be mentors if they have we did it as an undergrad here. They have
So not new grad students, but if there's somebody that's continuing on.
And especially before.
And we have had instructors, faculty members ask before, I've got this great peer advisor in my department, or this great student that has been a UTF with me. Can they apply to be a peer mentor? And if you have somebody in mind like that, get with Lisa as soon as possible so that she can facilitate them getting applied and hired. Any other questions about connections, why you should do it, how you should do it? All right. Well, thank you all for coming. We'll have about a 15-minute break, and then we'll have our panel about retention. So go and do whatever you need to do and talk to each other about this if you want to. But thank you so much for coming.